Do you feel like your periods show up way too often? Maybe every 3 weeks instead of once a month? Maybe it feels as soon as you're done having your period, it's starting all over again. Okay, you're not alone. About 16% of women experience cycles that are only 21 to 25 days long. But here's the key: frequent periods aren't random. They're your body's way of signaling something deeper, and that's what we're going to go into. Hello, and welcome to the Feel Better, Feel Great podcast, episode 171. Is your period coming too soon? The truth about short cycles. In every episode, I like to dive into holistic health and functional medicine to empower you with the knowledge that you need to lead a healthier, happier life. I'm your host, Dr. Andrea McSwain, and in today's episode, I'm going to explain the real reasons behind short cycles, how to tell the difference between a true short cycle and breakthrough bleeding, when it's time to be concerned, and what you can do naturally to lengthen your cycle and feel better. We're really going to go into some root cause stuff here, and I want to make sure that you're paying attention and that you have access to this information and more. So if you're new to me, please like, subscribe, and click the bell for this channel so that you receive notifications. And please remember that this is educational information only. Okay, it's only designed to provide medical education to you. While I do believe that's very powerful, it is not medical recommendations or medical advice that you would receive from your provider. And if you do have medical conditions, I hope that you can apply this education in speaking with your provider so that you can start getting better care. So let's talk for a moment about what's normal and what's not. Okay, first of all, common is not normal. So if you're like, oh yeah, I get my period, you know, like I said, every 21 days, or let's just say that idea, right? So a healthy menstrual cycle is 26 to 32 days as a window, right? With the average being 28 or 29 days. Now, it used to be that a healthy menstrual cycle was 21 to 35 days. And I'm glad that that has changed, because that at 21 days is way too short and at 35 days was way too long. Okay, so cycle starts on the first day of bleeding if your bleeding starts before 4 p.m., technically, and it ends the day before your next period begins. So that actually is a full cycle, right? We cycle monthly every 20 or 28 days. And so if you're cycling less than that, it's definitely considered a short cycle, and it's affecting, or the cycling is being affected by the hormones and some of the other nutrients that are involved. So let's get into that, okay? What we sometimes see too is that a short cycle is actually mid-cycle spotting or breakthrough bleeding. And that is also different, and it's also a sign of hormone imbalance. Okay. So there are root causes of short cycles, and a lot of them have to do with hormones. There you go. And it alters your rhythm. So estrogen dominance. Now, you'll hear me say that women are estrogen dominant. That's why we're females, right? When we think about estrogen dominance, a lot of times what people are really saying, and what I'm saying here, is estrogen excess. And the dominance is over the progesterone. So the estrogen ends up dominating over the progesterone ratio. So there's a lot of like ways that people say it, but really too much estrogen on board, okay? Because estrogen, when it's dominant over progesterone and the ratio is altered, it makes the uterine lining build up faster. And so when the uterine lining builds up faster, your period can come sooner, because the uterine lining, when it's built up faster and it's bigger, it becomes more fragile and breakable. And then it will kind of slough earlier. The other one is low progesterone. Okay, so progesterone is designed to hold that uterine lining capable, right, of having the egg implant. And so if the progesterone is too low, then the lining just doesn't really like get that duration to build. Okay. And that means the luteal phase is shortened. And the luteal phase is the progesterone dominant phase. And then the period comes early, or flow comes early. Another root cause, stress. And this is really where I've seen people have consistently shorter periods, and for a lot of years have shorter periods, and then sometimes people just having no periods. Right? So if you're having less and less and less and less and then none, that's also short. That fits into this conversation. But you've got to recognize that stress hormones, right, override the whole system. So our body, in order to have a reproductive cycle, we have to have a reproductive capacity. And if we're in a stress mode, it can dominate over our reproductive hormones, i.e. our sex hormones, i.e. estrogen and progesterone. So stress will override all of that because our body will not make us capable of reproducing, technically, which is what the cycle happens for, and vitality and all those other things. But from a very rudimentary perspective, stress will shut down everything else. So that's another big way that cycles become shorter. Then, of course, thyroid imbalance, whether it's too low or too high, can lead to frequent bleeding. So we need to make sure the thyroid's okay. And then as people exit their reproductive capacity, they go into perimenopause. So this is like somewhere around 50, right? And so perimenopause, as you fluctuate in these transition years, as the body's just kind of diminishing its reproductive capacity, then cycles will shorten or become, some will be shorter, some will be longer. Really what happens is you kind of fade out, right? So they get shorter and they get in frequency, they get shorter in duration, and they just kind of wane. So then perimenopause, as hormones fluctuate in like age 50, 51, as women are leaving the reproductive capacity years, okay, then their periods start to transition because they have this kind of waning cycle. So the cycles might get a little bit shorter together, a little bit shorter in durations themselves, and then sometimes then they start getting longer and they wane. So if you're around perimenopause, sometimes you might have a few periods that are short together and then not a period for a while and then short together again, something like that. So that can be perimenopause. However, I want to make a caveat. If you are 35 and your periods are doing that, that is stress and it is not perimenopause. And I feel like I'm leading this movement to say like perimenopause is around menopause, meaning 50, 51, right? Because menopause is 52, 53. Perimenopause is not 38. Perimenopause is 50, 51. If you're having problems that look like perimenopause at 38, you're having hormone rhythm problems. You're having a stress situation and hormone imbalance that is causing the report card of your period to be messed up. Okay. So, that is something I can help you with. But really adopting this idea that perimenopause is like, oh, that's what I'm in. It's like, nope, you cannot accept that as an answer. It is that you are having a hormone rhythm problem. And we need to get you reset so we can get you really good health for the long haul. Feel better, feel great. All right. So when do you take a closer look at shorter cycles? Obviously, cycles under 21 days, that's really important if they're just coming. Very heavy bleeding that drains your energy, very important. And I think people start to recognize that when they start in their period for, they have a period for so long, it makes them, the time that they don't have their period, be very short, right? And they have lots of bleeding or they have consistent spotting. periods that are painful, okay, or periods that are regular, right? And then these can all indicate underlying conditions, and we're going to talk about those. So if you are just jumping on, please subscribe to this channel. I would really appreciate it. I have lots to share, and I would love to hear from you. And I post content once a week. All right, so let's talk about some natural ways to support a longer, healthier cycle. One, nutrition, right? And nutrition is always important. So when we have nutrition in deficiencies, we have that manifest in our body. Nutrients are at the core of our biochemistry. And of course, critical nutrients with our bodies are B vitamins, especially B6, because it supports progesterone. It supports a lot of things. It helps us sleep better, right? So B6 is really critical. Magnesium and vitamin C, they help regulate hormones and reduce premenstrual syndrome or PMS. So that's very important. Those are really critical nutrients. And then, of course, we want to be thinking about protein-rich meals, which can be plant-based. And these can help balance blood sugar. And blood sugar really impacts our hormone stability. So there are those ideas. Next is lifestyle, right? It's not, a lot of people say stress reduction. It's like, it's not really stress reduction. It's really like recognizing that stress hormones play a huge role in your body, and they have to be respected so that they can be organized. Because if you're living under a heavy fog of stress and it's not being organized, then it's going to keep affecting your rhythms, right? It's a rhythm disruptor. Stress is a rhythm disruptor. Now, you need some stress, you need tension, but we need ways to release that too. Okay, and my favorite thing is sleep. Consistent restorative sleep, right? To keep your hormones balanced. Consistent restorative sleep. I can't say it enough. In fact, sleep is one of my main goals, in getting someone the ability to sleep is one of my main goals in my clinic, because sleep is our time to heal. And then, of course, we want to track the cycles because we want to see them improve, right? I mean, that's the point. Of course, there's other herbals and some other ways. I like Chasteberry and Balance Forte. I think that's fantastic. Chasteberry helps lengthen the luteal phase and by supporting progesterone. Adaptogens in Adrenal Forte is a big win. In fact, I think adaptogens, if you have to do them, like, because which we should all have adaptogens, because they help us. If you're high, they help bring you down a little bit. If you're low, they help bring you up. And that really just helps you, right, handle the stress and be resilient from that. And I get into a bunch of that in my course, because Hormone Rhythm Reset is a lot about like adaptability and building resilience. So adaptogens are fantastic. Adrenal Forte is what I recommend for people, because it's a beautiful limited amount of combination of adaptogens to really get you that strength. And it's just nice to have that internal strength of your stress handled and be supported, right? So, and then of course, omega-3s and anti-inflammatory foods, they can help prostaglandins, and prostaglandins are a part of our immune system that really play a big role in our cycles. I want to make you aware of those things. And then I want to share a story. I did have a woman in her mid-30s that came to me with cycles every 21 days. She was exhausted, moody, seemed like the PMS would never end. And when we did her testing, okay, urine testing, very effective for hormones, she showed low progesterone and high stress hormones. Well, this makes a lot of sense. if you're looking at the symptoms and you understand what's happening in the body, that testing often reinforces the details and gives us a guide. But really, a lot of information is in your symptoms when you know your symptoms right. Like our period gives us this really great report card. So, of course, I made, nutrient changes. I added some magnesium, B6 at night. Total win. Total win. Magnesium helps you with like 400 processes in your body. It helps you chill out, affects your blood pressure, your muscles to lower the tension. So you're just not walking around like this, right? So that's a big deal. Of course, sleep and magnesium and B6 are great to take at night for that reason. Started looking at Fembalance Forte just to support getting that luteal phase to prolong. And then, of course, looking at stress management. And like, taking a moment for yourself, call it what you want, but stress management is often just considering yourself in the situation, right? And in a few months, like 4 to 6 months, her cycle lengthened. So it's really great. It felt really good to be honored to care for her, to help her, and to have her feel the success and organization in her body. So she had more energy, better mood. Obviously, PMS is just really like stuck on us. Like it's like we're told to have that, and we don't have that, right? We can dissipate that. So if you don't agree with me, let me know in the comments about that, because I would love to hear more from you. If you're on Instagram, DM me in the chats like, wait, I don't have to have PMS, or I have raging PMS and there's a way to not have that. And like, yes, 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 yes. Okay. And then definitely looking at just this trust that she developed in her body. So important to trust your body. And I can't say enough great things about that when we're really looking at the long game of who we are and how we connect to our mind, body, emotion. And so those are also cycles, right? Those are also connections and the flow through our dynamic lives. So we can see the symptom of a shortened cycle, right? And we can appreciate hormone imbalances with that, nutrients that play a role in hormone imbalance, lifestyle, so kind of other things, the sleep, the food, the stress management, the relationships, right? All those things that play into lifestyle factors, and they're a foundation. So we want to address those. And then, of course, looking at how these issues come together, and then the body starts to produce too little progesterone, or we have too much estrogen excess, and then our stress hormones really start throwing things off. So we can get a hold of it. You can get a hold of it. And these targeted supports and natural extensions of the cycle, so that the patterns are more predictable. The report card is like a easygoing report card, right? You're like, yeah, I don't really have that. I don't really have that. Yeah, I just have a flow for 5 days, day 28 or day 29, because your period isn't just about bleeding, right? It's also about all the rhythms, the cycles, and it's a monthly report card of your overall health. So if it's coming too often, your body is asking you to pay attention. Again, thank you so much for joining us today with the truth about short cycles. I hope you found the insights valuable and you feel inspired to apply what you've learned to your daily routine. Also, if today's topic resonated with you, I'd love for you to subscribe to our podcast, leave a review, or share it with a family member or a friend who might benefit from these discussions. And again, please DM me on Instagram, leave a comment here. Even if your comment is like, something like, it was helpful, maybe, that would be, if it was helpful, that would be great, so that it gives us a chance to get able to support other people. All right, blessings.